What if the changes happening in your life right now weren't something to fear, but the very thing leading you to more confidence, freedom, and joy? Welcome to Aging Flipped, where grandmotherhood becomes your launchpad for transforming aging. I'm your host, Debi Talbert. My mission is to help you create a rich, enriched, and optimal life in your grandmotherhood years by flipping the script on aging. Each episode reveals a new possibility for creating a lasting legacy while thriving mentally, physically, and emotionally. Let's jump in and reshape that aging story together. Welcome back to Aging Flipped. I'm your host, Debbie, and today we're tackling something we all face, but rarely embrace: change. For so many women in their grandmotherhood years, whether you're already a grandmother, soon to be grandmother, or hope to one day be one, change can feel overwhelming, unpredictable, and sometimes even something to fight against. It turns out the discomfort of change is your opportunity to increase your self confidence, create more freedom in your life, and experience amazing internal growth. That's exactly what we're talking about today. We're going to explore that topic because when you shift your mindset around change, everything shifts within you. Let's dive right in. At the age of 40, I became a flight attendant. At the age of 59, I ended a decade-long struggle with alcohol. Both of those changes, at first, they terrified me. When I started my new career as a flight attendant, when I went from administrative assistant to flight attendant, yes, I was excited, very excited. But I was also stepping into a completely brand new world. New schedules, new rules, and a whole new way of living. I could have let the fear stop me, but instead I adapted. And what I gained was adventure, resilience, and confidence. Years later, when I realized my drinking was holding me back from the life I truly wanted, I had another choice: stay in the comfort of what I already knew or step into the unknown. The change, at first, it felt impossible. But once I embraced it and stepped into the discomfort of the change, it became one of my greatest strengths. Change isn't something to fear. It's actually something that shapes you into your strongest, most confident version of you. Here's the truth. Every time you go through change, you're adding layers of wisdom, experience, and confidence. Think about it. Every transition you've navigated, motherhood, and even all those little transitions within motherhood, when your child is a toddler, when your child becomes, your child's an infant, then your child becomes a toddler, then your child becomes a preteen, then your child becomes a teenager. All of those little phases within motherhood, those are transitions. And those all bring about change. Think about all of the transitions you've made in your career, all those different shifts you've had within your own career. And then the shifts of the change, right? And the transition of your own children becoming adults and you're still the mom and your title is still mom. However, you're now both adults and your child is out living on their own and you're needing to change and transition that role between what does it mean now in my role as mom and in your child's role as child. And that brings on transition. That brings on new routines. All of those things, when you really open yourself up to explore them and get curious about them, they have all made you stronger. And so I want to encourage you to, instead of resisting change, because those have been times where the change has been, in the transition part, it's really been forced upon you. You didn't really have a choice, right? Those changes were happening and you needed to figure out how to navigate and transition. Instead, you weren't really kind of trying to resist many of those things. So I encourage you now, instead of resisting the change that may be happening as you're aging, I want to invite you to see it as a source of wisdom and power. Let me explain. A woman that I have been working with recently, she's always seen herself as someone who hates change. She resisted every turn. She was afraid of what it might mean in her life. But when she shifted her mindset and she started seeing change as an opportunity rather than an obstacle, most of the things she was afraid of in her life completely transformed. And it became exciting for her, fun for her to make all these changes. So instead of seeing it as the uncertainty and as a threat, she began to see it as a doorway into something bigger. And that's what's possible when you stop fearing change and you start seeing it as a thing that makes you stronger. Now, let's talk about resilience, because resilience comes when we embrace change. And most people think of resilience as something you either have or you don't. But that's not actually true. Resilience is a skill. It's something you build every time you move through change. And this is amazing news. You already have proof you can handle change. Think about your own life as kind of like a tree. And every season brings change. Even as I talked about earlier, all of those different seasons within motherhood that you went through, they brought change. And you're thinking about a tree outside, and then the leaves are full and the branches grow. Then a storm might come and the leaves all blow off and the tree's still standing firm. Its roots are deep within. And this growing that you've been doing all throughout your life, and the more seasons you've gone through, the stronger you become. And one of my favorite ways to practice resilience is what I call this change circle exercise to really help you understand. And it's very simple and powerful. I know that right now you're listening in audio form, and I get it. And so I want you to envision and imagine that you see a circle, and then within that circle, you put another circle, and then within that circle, you put another circle. So it looks like a bullseye, the images that we usually see of a bullseye. And within the center bullseye, I want you to write or think about one change and envision that one change in there that you have faced in your life. Then in the next circle part, the next outer layer of this bullseye, I want you to think about 3 ways this change helped you grow. And if you're where you can pause and actually do this on paper, this is really going to be even more impactful for you. After you've done that, on that outer circle, I want you to write 3 opportunities, new opportunities that this change actually created for you. Really thinking back of changes you've already been through, and do this with that. And then I also want to encourage you to do it with something new and different, a change that you want to make. I want you to write 3 ways that if you make this change, how it might help you grow. And in the outer circle, if you choose to make this change and you embrace the discomfort of making that change, what are 3 new opportunities that doing this change might open up for you? This is going to shift your mindset into seeing change that is something that is happening for you, and to start shifting your perspective around change. And then the last kind of concept I want to go into around change is adaptability. Right? So change is also, and a lot of times people confuse adaptability with going with the flow. But real adaptability isn't about being passive. It's about making intentional adjustments that serve your well-being. Think about the hummingbird. It can change directions instantly, adjusting to the wind and the obstacles, yet it never loses the ability to fly with grace and purpose. And so if you really slow down and let yourself think about how adaptable you have been so far in life, you still have that same ability. And adaptability is not about ignoring your emotions. It's more about learning to pivot without losing yourself in the process. And one of the clients that I've worked with who has struggled with a long-standing conflict in her family, every time the subject would come up, she would react in the same way. And she noticed it was very automatic for her in this reacting in the same way. And she'd immediately start trying to go into fix-it mode. And you can't see me, but I'm doing quotes around the term fix-it. And then, so one day she decided to make this small adjustment, and she chose to listen first. And that one change broke a 10-year cycle of conflict within her family, this long-standing conflict within her family. So she didn't lose herself. She simply adapted how she was going to react, and it made all the difference in the world. And that is what adaptability does. But what I want to encourage you to do is to pause and really think about, how has adaptability supported you in your life through, and then really thinking about all the things that I've said here and kind of what I've pointed out, and slow down and see it in your life, in those moments in your life where going through change and moving through change has actually increased your self-confidence, given you clarity, and given you control. And that's really what actually goes on with the changes. But when you're busy resisting it and fighting it, you'll miss all that. And you'll miss that opportunity to increase your self-confidence. You'll miss that opportunity to grow your clarity around what do you want to do now in this season of your life. And you'll miss that opportunity to have control over the things and the aspects that you can control yourself. So let me ask you, what if you could wake up every morning feeling excited about what's next, instead of feeling stuck in the unknown? That is exactly what I help women do inside the Aging Flipped playground. And so and I want to encourage you to join me and visit me over there. And you can find /fly. And that's going to get you on the notification list for when I open up the playground. And that is what we're going to be doing inside the playground, is we're going to be flipping our script about what we believe around aging. I will see you next time. Now it's your turn. What stood out for you today? Take one small step toward implementing that one thing that stood out to you today. Remember, every action, no matter how small, shapes your aging journey. I am here to cheer you on. Visit agingflipped.com for resources and tools to support you on the journey of flipping your script about aging.